There is something you have been carrying for a very long time. Something invisible, yet so heavy that you feel it in your chest when you check your bank balance, in your shoulders when bills arrive, in your stomach when you think about the future. Money, for you, does not feel light. It does not feel neutral. It does not feel like freedom or possibility or flow. It feels like weight. It feels like pressure. It feels like something you must manage, control, protect, or worry about constantly. And this weight follows you everywhere, even when you sleep. You have tried everything to shake it off, yet the heaviness remains. A constant companion you never asked for but cannot seem to release. You have told yourself to be grateful, to think positively, to focus on abundance. You have read the advice, followed the strategies, worked harder, earned more. You have done everything the world told you to do. You have pushed yourself beyond your limits, sacrificed your time, your energy, your peace. And still, the heaviness remains. Not because you are broken, not because you are failing, but because the weight you feel is not about money at all. It is about everything that became attached to money before you ever had the chance to choose. It is the emotional residue of years, of messages, of moments when your nervous system learned that money was not just currency, but survival, safety, proof of worth, and the difference between being okay and not being okay. This conditioning runs deeper than thought, deeper than logic, deeper than any strategy can reach. This weight was never yours to carry alone. It was placed on you, layer by layer, experience by experience, until it became so familiar that you forgot it was even there. But you feel it now. You have always felt it, and understanding why it exists is the first step towards setting it down. Because money is not heavy. What is heavy is everything you were taught to tie to it. The meanings, the fears, the expectations, the judgments, the impossible standards. And that can be untied, gently, consciously, starting right now. The weight you carry has a history, and that history is not your destiny. It is simply the beginning of your awareness. What you are about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about money, about yourself, and about what it means to finally feel free. This is not just information. This is liberation. The weight began early, long before you understood what money actually was. You absorbed it through the atmosphere of your home, through the tone of conversations you were not meant to hear, through the tension that filled the air when bills came or when your parents spoke in hushed, strained voices behind closed doors. You learned that money was serious. You learned that money was scarce. You learned that money was something adults worried about, fought about, worked endlessly for, and never seemed to have enough of. And your small, developing nervous system registered all of this as danger. Before you could speak in full sentences, your body already knew that money meant tension, that it meant something could go wrong at any moment, that safety was fragile and could disappear without warning. Children do not think in concepts, they feel in sensations. And what you felt was that money meant stress, uncertainty, and the possibility that things could fall apart. You did not need to be told this directly. You felt it in the way your mother's face tightened when she opened an envelope. You felt it in the way your father's mood shifted after a long day at a job he hated. You felt it in the way certain things were out of reach. Certain requests were met with silence or frustration. Certain dreams were dismissed before they were even spoken. And so your body learned to brace, to prepare, to associate money with tension rather than ease. This was your first education about money, and it was written in feeling, not words. It was written in the language of the nervous system, in the only language a child truly understands, the language of safety and threat, of comfort and fear. This was not a choice you made. It was an imprint, a conditioning, a survival response wired into your system before you had the language to question it. And because it happened so early, it became invisible. It became normal. It became the lens through which you would see money for the rest of your life, unless you chose to look deeper, unless you chose to recognize that what you are feeling now is not the truth of money, but the echo of what you learned to feel then. And echoes, no matter how loud, can be quieted. The nervous system that learned to tighten can also learn to release. But first, you must see what was written there in the beginning. you must understand that the weight was never about money itself. It was about what money represented in a world that felt unsafe, uncertain, and beyond your control. It was about the fear that if money disappeared, so would everything else. And that fear, planted so early, has been growing inside you ever since. As you grew older, the weight did not disappear. It evolved. It became more complex, more layered, more entangled with your sense of self. Money stopped being just about survival and became about identity, about whether you were responsible, capable, worthy, or enough. You began to measure yourself against it. How much you had, how much you made, how much you saved, how much you could give, spend, or show. And with every measurement came judgment. Am I doing enough? Am I behind? Am I failing? Am I safe? The questions never stopped, and neither did the pressure. Money became the yardstick by which you measured your value as a human being, and the measuring never stopped, not even for a moment, not even when you achieved what you thought would finally be enough. The world reinforced this constantly. You were told that money equaled success, that earning more meant you were winning, that financial security was the ultimate goal, and anything less was a sign of inadequacy. You internalized these messages without realizing it. You started to believe that your value as a person was somehow tied to your net worth, your salary, your ability to provide or impress. And so money became a mirror, reflecting back every insecurity, every fear, every doubt you carried about yourself. It was no longer neutral, it was charged, it was heavy. It became the measure by which you judged whether you were moving forward or falling behind. And the standard kept rising, always just out of reach, always demanding more, always whispering that you were not quite there yet, that you needed to do more, be more, have more before you could finally rest. And the heaviest part was this. No matter how much you earned, no matter how hard you worked, the feeling never went away. The anxiety did not ease. The pressure did not lift. Because the weight was never about the amount. It was about the meaning you had been taught to give it. It was about the impossible standard you were trying to meet. It was about trying to use money to prove something that money could never prove. That you are safe, that you are worthy, that you are enough. And as long as money carried that burden, it would always feel heavy, because no amount could ever be enough to silence the fear beneath it. The goalposts would always move because the real goal was impossible. You were trying to fill an emotional void with a practical resource, and it could never work, no matter how much you accumulated. The whole was never about money. It was about belonging, about worthiness, about the fear that without external proof, you might not matter at all. There is another layer to this weight, one that runs even deeper. It is the layer of responsibility, the feeling that you must carry not only yourself, but others, that your success or failure with money affects more than just you, that people are depending on you, watching you, counting on you, and that any mistake, any misstep, any moment of struggle could let them down. This is the weight that keeps you awake at night. This is the weight that makes rest feel impossible. This is the weight that turns money into a constant, grinding obligation that you cannot escape. You carry the world on your shoulders, and no one seems to notice how heavy it has become, how close you are to collapsing under the pressure, how desperately you need someone to see that you are struggling too. For some, this weight came from family expectations, from being told, directly or indirectly, that you were supposed to lift everyone up, to be the one who made it, to provide for parents or siblings or children in ways that required you to sacrifice your own peace. For others, it came from cultural narratives about masculinity, about what it means to be a man, a provider, a protector, someone who does not falter or admit fear or ask for help. You were taught that carrying this weight alone was noble, that struggling in silence was strength, that your worth was measured by how much you could endure without breaking. And so you learned to carry more than any one person should, to shoulder burdens that were never meant to be carried alone, to sacrifice your own well-being for the sake of appearing strong, for the sake of not disappointing anyone, for the sake of living up to an image that was never truly yours to fulfill. And so you endured. You carried. You pushed through exhaustion, through anxiety, through the quiet desperation of feeling like you could never do enough. You told yourself it was temporary, that once you reached a certain level of income or stability, the weight would lift. But it did not. Because the weight was never about reaching a destination. It was about the belief that you had to carry it alone, that you had to be everything for everyone, that your value depended on your ability to hold it all together without faltering. And that belief, more than any financial reality, is what makes money feel like a burden too heavy to bear. The weight is not the responsibility itself. It is the isolation of carrying it without permission to be human, without permission to struggle, without permission to admit that sometimes it is simply too much. It is the loneliness of feeling like no one understands, like no one sees, like if you stopped carrying it all, everything would fall apart and it would be your fault. The weight also carries memory, not just your own, but the memories of those who came before you. The struggles of parents who went without so you could have more. The sacrifices of grandparents who survived scarcity, who lived through hardship, who learned that money was something you hoarded, protected, and feared losing. These memories live in you, passed down through stories, through warnings, through the way you were taught to relate to money. And they shape you in ways you may not even realize. You are carrying their fear as if it were your own, their caution as if it were necessary for your survival. Their ghosts walk with you every time you think about money, whispering warnings, demanding vigilance, refusing to let you rest, reminding you that disaster is always just one mistake away. You may find yourself unable to spend freely, even when you have more than enough. You may find yourself gripping tightly to every dollar, afraid that letting go means losing everything. You may find yourself living in a state of perpetual caution, always preparing for disaster, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is not paranoia. This is not irrational. This is the nervous system responding to the past, to the survival patterns that were encoded in you long before you were born. This is the weight of inherited trauma, of collective memory, of a lineage that learned to equate money with the difference between life and death. You are living their story as if it were still happening now, as if the Great Depression never ended, as if scarcity is still the reality even when abundance surrounds you. You are fighting battles that were never yours, carrying wounds that were inflicted on someone else, living in fear of a danger that no longer exists. And here is the truth. You do not have to carry their fear. You do not have to live as though their struggles are still your reality. You can honor their sacrifices without repeating their suffering. You can acknowledge the past without letting it dictate your present, because you are not them. Your circumstances are not theirs, and the weight they carried, however real it was for them, does not have to be the weight you carry now. You are allowed to put it down. You are allowed to choose a different relationship with money. You are allowed to break the cycle, not by rejecting where you came from, but by consciously deciding where you are going. Their story does not have to be your story. You can write a new one where money is neutral, where safety comes from within, where you are free to live without the constant fear that everything could disappear at any moment. You can honor their memory by living the freedom they never had, by choosing peace instead of perpetual struggle, by proving that their sacrifices were not in vain because you finally learned to rest. The exhaustion you feel around money is not just mental, it is physical. It is the tiredness that comes from constant vigilance, from never being able to fully relax, from living in a state of low-grade stress that drains you over time. Your body carries the weight in ways your mind cannot always name. In the tightness of your jaw, in the tension of your shoulders, in the shallow breathing that happens when you think about bills or debt or the future, in the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to cure. This is what happens when money becomes a source of chronic stress. It wears you down from the inside out, quietly, relentlessly, until you forget what it feels like to be at ease, to breathe deeply, to move through the world without carrying this invisible burden that presses down on you with every step you take. And the cruel irony is this: the more you earn, the more the weight can grow. Because with more money comes more responsibility, more decisions, more ways to fail, more people with expectations, more complexity. The belief that reaching a certain income will finally bring peace is a lie many of us are sold. We think that once we make enough, we will feel safe. We think that once we have a cushion, a reserve, a comfortable margin, the anxiety will disappear. But for many, it does not. Because the anxiety was never about the amount. It was about the relationship. And if that relationship is built on fear, no amount of money will ever feel like enough. The number changes, but the feeling stays the same. The pressure remains constant. The weight continues to grow heavier with every dollar earned. You reach the goal, and immediately a new one appears. You achieve what you thought would bring peace, and find only more pressure, more expectation, more fear of losing what you finally gained. This is why you see people with wealth who are still consumed by money anxiety. Why high earners still feel stressed, still feel trapped, still feel like they cannot afford to slow down. Because they are running from the same weight you are. They are trying to outpace the fear, to accumulate enough that they finally feel secure. But security does not come from the account balance. It comes from the nervous system. It comes from learning to feel safe regardless of the number, and that requires something money cannot buy. It requires awareness. It requires healing. It requires the willingness to look at why money feels heavy in the first place. It requires you to stop running and turn around to face what you have been carrying all along, to see it clearly, to understand that the weight is not about the money, and it never was. It was always about the fear underneath, the belief that you are not safe, that you are not enough, that one wrong move could take everything away, and that belief will follow you no matter how much you earn until you choose to face it. There is a moment, if you are willing to see it, where everything shifts. It is the moment when you realize that the weight is not permanent, that it is not who you are, that it is something you learned, something you absorbed, something that was placed on you by circumstance and conditioning, and therefore something that can be released. This moment does not come from earning more or achieving more or finally getting everything under control. It comes from stopping, from pausing long enough to feel what you are carrying, from naming it, from acknowledging that the heaviness is real, but that it is not the truth of money itself. This is the moment when the prison door opens and you realize it was never locked, that you have been free to leave all along, that the only thing keeping you inside was the belief that you had to stay. Money is neutral. It is a tool, a resource, a medium of exchange. It has no inherent meaning, no emotional charge, no power over you except the power you give it. The weight you feel is not coming from money. It is coming from the stories you were told about money, the beliefs you internalized, the fear that was passed down to you, the pressure you placed on yourself, the impossible standards you tried to meet. And when you see this clearly, when you truly understand that the weight is separate from the thing itself, something loosens, something begins to shift, not all at once, but gradually, like a knot slowly coming undone. Like taking off armor you forgot you were wearing, piece by piece, and until you can finally move freely again. The relief does not come from changing your circumstances. It comes from changing your relationship to them. This is the beginning of freedom. Not financial freedom in the traditional sense, though that may come, but emotional freedom, the freedom to hold money without gripping it, to earn money without attaching your worth to it, to spend money without guilt or fear, to think about money without your chest tightening, to exist in a world where money is part of your life, but not the weight that defines it. This is possible, not because you become rich, not because you achieve some perfect state of financial enlightenment, but because you choose, moment by moment, to untangle what was tied, to release what was never yours to carry, to reclaim your peace, to remember what lightness feels like, what it means to move through the world without this constant burden pressing down on you. This is the shift from being controlled by money to simply using it as the neutral tool it always was. And this shift changes everything. Releasing the weight does not mean ignoring responsibility. It does not mean becoming careless or reckless or financially irresponsible. It means recognizing the difference between conscious stewardship and unconscious burden, between taking care of your resources and being enslaved by the fear of not having enough, between planning for the future and living in perpetual anxiety about it. The goal is not to stop caring about money. The goal is to stop letting money control how you feel about yourself, your life, and your worth. The goal is to manage money from a place of clarity rather than fear. This is the shift from reacting to responding, from being controlled to being in control, from living in constant tension to living in conscious choice. It is the difference between drowning and swimming, between being tossed by the waves and learning to navigate them. This requires practice. It requires you to notice in real time when the old patterns arise, when you feel your body tense at the sight of a bill, when you catch yourself spiraling into worry about the future, when you realize you are measuring yourself against some invisible standard of enough. And in those moments, instead of pushing the feeling away or trying to fix it immediately, you pause, you breathe. You remind yourself that this is the old weight trying to reassert itself, that it is familiar but not inevitable, that you have a choice in how you respond, that the pattern can be interrupted. Each pause is an act of liberation, a small rebellion against the conditioning that has ruled you for so long. Each conscious breath is a declaration that you are no longer willing to be controlled by fear. You begin to ask different questions. Not how do I make more, but why do I feel this way? Not what if I fail, but what am I truly afraid of? Not am I doing enough, but according to whom? These questions disrupt the automatic patterns. They create space between the trigger and the response. They allow you to see that the fear is not always based on current reality, but on past conditioning. And in that space, you can choose differently. You can choose to act from clarity rather than panic. You can choose to trust rather than control. You can choose to release the grip, just a little, and see what happens when you do. Each time you make this choice, the weight becomes a little lighter. The burden becomes a little easier to bear. And slowly, gradually, you begin to remember what it feels like to be free. To breathe without that constant tightness in your chest. To think about money without that immediate surge of anxiety. This is the practice of freedom, and it happens one moment at a time. The transformation is not dramatic. It does not happen overnight. It is subtle, incremental, a quiet shift that unfolds over time. You begin to notice that money conversations do not trigger you the way they used to, that checking your bank account does not send you into a spiral, that you can make decisions about spending or saving without the old guilt or fear clouding your judgment. You begin to feel lighter, not because your financial situation has radically changed, but because your relationship to it has. Because you have untangled the weight from the currency. Because you have reclaimed your emotional sovereignty. Because you are no longer at war with yourself over money. You are no longer carrying what does not belong to you. No longer living under the pressure of impossible standards. You have begun to separate who you are from what you have, and in that separation you find peace. And as this happens, something interesting occurs. Money begins to flow differently, not because you manifested it through positive thinking or because the universe rewarded you, but because you are no longer operating from fear. You are no longer making decisions from a place of scarcity or panic, or the desperate need to prove something. You are thinking more clearly. You are acting more intentionally. You are open to opportunities you would have missed when you were consumed by the weight. This is not magic. This is what happens when you free up the mental and emotional energy that was being drained by chronic stress. You become more resourceful, more creative, more capable, simply because you are no longer exhausted by the burden. Energy once spent on worry now fuels possibility, innovation, connection. You see options you could not see before. You take risks you were too afraid to take. You move through the world with a different energy, and the world responds differently to you. This does not mean life becomes perfect. Challenges still arise. Financial decisions still need to be made. Uncertainty still exists. But you meet it all from a different place. From a place of groundedness rather than panic. From a place of trust rather than fear. From a place of knowing that your worth is not on the line every time you encounter money. And this changes everything. Not the circumstances, necessarily, but your experience of them. And your experience is what determines whether money feels like a weight or simply like one aspect of a well-lived life. You are no longer defined by the number. You are defined by how you choose to relate to it. And that choice, that power, has been yours all along, waiting for you to claim it. The lightness you feel now is not because you finally have enough money. It is because you finally understand that you were always enough, regardless of the money. You have been carrying something that was never meant to be carried this way, a weight that accumulated over years, through messages and moments and memories that taught you to fear money, to tie your worth to it, to see it as the measure of your safety and value. And now, having looked at it clearly, having named it, having understood where it came from, you have a choice. You can continue to carry it, believing that the weight is simply the price of being responsible, of being an adult, of being someone who cares. Or you can begin, slowly and gently, to set it down. You can choose to walk a different path. You can choose freedom. The path has always been there, waiting for you to notice it, waiting for you to take that first step towards something lighter, something truer, something that actually belongs to you rather than being inherited from a past you never chose. Setting it down does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means releasing the emotional charge. It means untangling your worth from your bank account. It means recognizing that money is a tool you use, not a force that uses you. It means allowing yourself to breathe when you think about finances, to feel neutral or even calm instead of tense and afraid. It means giving yourself permission to have a lighter, more conscious relationship with money, one where you are in control, not because you have mastered every dollar, but because you have mastered the fear that once controlled you. It means freedom, real freedom, from the inside out. It means living without the constant pressure, without the constant measuring, without the constant fear that you are somehow failing, somehow not enough. It means waking up without that immediate tightness in your chest. It means making decisions from clarity instead of panic. It means finally being at peace. This is the truth that no one tells you, that the heaviness you feel is not about money at all, that it is about everything you were taught to attach to it, and that those attachments can be loosened, released, transformed. You do not need to wait until you have more. You do not need to achieve some perfect financial state. You can begin right now, in this moment, by simply acknowledging that the weight exists, that it is not your fault, and that it is not permanent. By choosing awareness over automaticity, by choosing presence over panic, by choosing to see money for what it actually is, nothing more, nothing less, and to free yourself from the prison of what you thought it meant. The key has always been in your hand, and now you know how to use it. The door has always been unlocked. All that remains is the choice to walk through it. Money is neutral. The weight is learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply waking up to a pattern that has been running in the background of your life for longer than you can remember. And now that you see it, you can change it. Not all at once, but gradually, gently, with patience and compassion for yourself. Because you deserve to live without this weight. You deserve to feel light. You deserve to experience money as a resource, not a burden. And that freedom is available to you, starting now, if you choose it. The weight can be set down. The breath can return. The lightness can begin. You are already free. You just needed to remember. And now, you do. Now, you finally understand that the heaviness was never about money. It was about everything else. And everything else can be released. If this truth awakens something within you, don't stop here. Your transformation has only begun.